What is up, everyone? Welcome to episode 18 of the Sports Hour Plus with Miller and Watson. Madness begins, tipping off in about 43 minutes. March Madness officially begins. The race to one. So excited. We wanted to get in here, so we'll probably be on here as some of these games tip off, but hoping to get off shortly after so we can experience all the madness for ourselves. Like I said, you can follow us on our Twitter pages. We'll be updating, tweeting as the tournament goes on. I got two teams in it this year, man. I am so pumped. I am like, today is kind of my like warm up day. I don't really have to root for anything too hard. And then tomorrow, I got JMU and UConn. I am so excited. I haven't been this excited for a tournament in so long. Like, obviously, I love UConn. UConn's awesome, and they're good every year. But like having your alma mater team in there is just so special. I know you know what that feels like. Unfortunately, you don't get to feel that with me this year. But you can jump on the Duke Dogs. Jump on our bandwagon for the month. We're great.
Look, it's a preview segment coming up. Like I did pick your alma mater to beat Wisconsin, but that's more because I have no faith in Wisconsin than I do in your school. But no Syracuse this year, no Villanova. It's unfortunate because I think Syracuse got snubbed. That UNC victory should have counted for something, but the committee is without Jim Boeheim, I guess they don't really have an excuse to put Syracuse in for no reason anymore. Now Virginia gets that spot. So it was great. It was a great weekend. Kind of discussed this. We're trying to do this. For those of you that don't know, it's March Madness, obviously. We're going to try to be a little bit earlier now for these next 2-3 weeks because, these games start at 12 on Thursday for the next couple of days. So next couple of weeks. So, yeah, that's why we're coming on Thursday at 11 something instead of 3:30. So I had a great weekend. I was telling Morgan off air. Did some axe throwing for the first time with a bunch of people from my church, and it was great. I did not. I still have my head, as you can see. Didn't hurt. No one got hurt. It was a great time. Very, very fun. Shouts out to my church, Christian Stronghold Church, celebrating their 58th anniversary this week.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, 58 years. So shout out to them. It was a great, like I said, great time. Kind of tired. I won't lie to you. It's kind of been tiring. I'm still feeling it now, but it's been a great week so far, and I'm excited for you and UConn, and I don't really have a rooting interest in this other than I need UConn, Houston, North Carolina, Creighton to make it to the Final Four. So those are my 4 teams. those are my 4 teams.
Okay, so we got a lot. We got a lot rooting for you. So.
Yeah. So if nothing else, and for those of you that don't know, both of us are in a bracket together with a bunch of other people in the sports media world and in our world of friends. So there's some bragging rights on the line here. So there might be some trash talk back and forth more than what y'all used to. It's just because we're in a bracket together. Nothing's gone on yet. So, so we'll see. But how was your weekend?
It was good. I was down in Virginia doing some wedding stuff. And then I came back up for one of my friends' bridal showers, which was really fun. It was very cool to get to come up and hang out with her and just celebrate love, which is always so fun. And then on Sunday, we just relished in the victory of UConn winning the Big East championship, which was awesome. My fiance started a new job today, so it's been kind of trying to get the house in order, trying to get, everything together so that when he starts, there's no laundry and all that stuff. So we've been kind of just laying low, doing a little bit of spring cleaning, but it's always good. We know we're going to be couch bums for the next couple days, sitting on the couch watching games. So good to get everything cleaned up. Felt nice. Got our dogs have got haircuts. They look really cute. If you hear them in the background, it's because Dan is in the office now, and I'm stuck with the 2 hooligans running around causing chaos. They're very excited for March Madness, so it's
Very excited for that and warm weather, right?
yes.
All dogs love warm weather. But yeah, so let's get down to it. If nothing else, like we said, we appreciate you guys for watching the Sports Hour Plus with Miller and Watson, where we try and give you your
Woo!
sports news in an hour plus. So we thank you all for watching. So yeah, let's get started. Yeah,
Let's
so
do it.
go ahead. You wanna explain this one?
Yeah. So this is this has kind of been a long time coming where Clemson is joining the lawsuit party against the ACC. Those of you that don't know, the ACC, I guess, is a notoriously bad TV deal contract, which is the staple of where this whole lawsuit is coming from. I'm right on that, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So the schools are making no money on it. Schools are bad. Schools want to leave. They want to mix things up, but they signed this crazy contract saying that they can't leave the ACC for like a million years. I don't know if it's exactly a million. It's like 50 years or something. It's a lot.
It's like until 2031. So yeah, like what?
Yeah,
7 years from now?
7, yeah. So and there's a lot of teams now that are trying to get out of it. Now, is this going to happen? No, I don't think so. I don't know if they have much of a case, but Kyle, what do you think?
Yeah, so as an alum of an ACC school in Syracuse, a school that jumped from the Big East to the ACC, there is some interest here from me, just because Syracuse joined this John not long ago, along with Pittsburgh and BC and a couple of other Northeast schools that have no business in this conference but are in it because football, right? So
Yep.
So yeah, so I think that first and foremost, I don't know why Clemson is doing this. You couldn't have picked a worse time if you're a Clemson to do this, just because like their football program kind of sucks right now. Like, and that's me being objective. It sucks right now. Like, so they're trying to leave and trying to get more money. I'm assuming, but to me, honestly, it's like, okay, Clemson, like you're gonna leave. You're not good at anything else other than football. Your basketball program's kind of like here right now. Everything else is kind of like middling anyway. Florida State, same thing. Like football just got good. Like they have somewhat of a case, but to me, it's like I said off air, and I'll say right here, and then this kind of jumps into the next question. Like, I don't understand what the logic here is, because you're saying essentially, I'm no lawyer. Maybe we need to get a labor lawyer up in here. But you're essentially saying, like, oh, courts, even though we didn't sign, they didn't put a gun to our head and make us sign this, we want you to give us some alleviation of this so we can run to the SEC or the Big Ten. And I'm just like, you can't go to the SEC. We'll get into that. You can't go to the SEC because South Carolina's there. Big Ten isn't doing a Big Ten South. I mean, the farthest Big Ten school is your not really neighborhood school, but your state neighborhood school of the University of Maryland in the Big Ten. So that's the Big Ten South right there. And I just don't see how this lawsuit is going to succeed. I'm no lawyer. I wanted to be one, but this wouldn't have been in my field of interest. But I just don't see them winning this lawsuit, because essentially any judge would be like, but you signed this of your own free will. No one made you sign this.
Yeah, like, that's the thing that doesn't make sense, is that I get it. You think that it's a bad deal. I get it. So do a lot of people, but you still signed it. It's like that. What is it? That TikTok or that meme that's like, oh, well, if it isn't the consequences of our actions, like
I love that meme.
like you did it, like, I don't mean to be rude or to be mean, but like, what do you want people to do? You did it. You signed it.
Yeah, I mean, like, and that's what I mean. Like, it's hard for me to like make that leap, and just like you and the most people, like, essentially Clemson and Florida State's argument is essentially it costs too much to leave the ACC. We're not getting money. we can't go anywhere. These are literally their arguments, just in layman's terms. Even though we signed this contract, we want to leave. Invalidate the 100, I think it's 150, $200 million. It's like ridiculous. 200 million, $300 million or whatever it is that it costs us to leave the ACC. We want you to force them to give us our TV rights back because we can't go to the SEC, Big 10, and Big 12 without that. That's number two. And then number three is essentially like, we're not competitive. But again, like I just said, both of their football programs are doing this. So it doesn't really matter. Like both of their football, except obviously Florida State went undefeated. So I know there's a bunch of Florida State alums screaming at me, but we went undefeated. And Jordan Travis isn't there, so y'all gonna do this. So it doesn't matter. So ultimately, and this is the other thing. Like, even where are they going? Like,
well, that's what are they going to go to the Sun Belt? Like, where are they going? Like, there's no room for them in other places.
Right.
That's the thing that I think is so frustrating.
Right. Both of these schools can't go. Like, some of you might say, well, they can go to the SEC. They can't go because their competitor schools are in the SEC. Florida and South Carolina would throw a fit. Y'all don't think, like, I'm not a Florida. I maybe we should have had a Florida and a Florida State alum on here to explain this rivalry. But from what I understand, it's very real. Both of these state schools is very real. Apparently, they don't want to be in the same conference as each other. You would think that would generate more money, but apparently it's just so real that they can't be in the same conference together. Both Florida and Florida State and the second USC and Clemson. But Morgan, maybe I mean, this is your region of the country, so maybe you know about this better than I do.
But that's what I don't understand. It's like, we keep saying for JMU that, like, maybe JMU should move to the ACC. Like, that would be a reasonable move for them. I don't know where they would go. That's like, I understand them being pissed about the deal. I get that. I understand they don't like a lot of the things that the ACC is doing, but where are they going to go? That's what I don't understand. Clemson, I guess, like, I mean, it would be the SEC would be the only place, but I doubt the SEC would even take them. The SEC doesn't need new teams. They don't need more money. That would be like the only thing I could say. I mean, there's a few of the ACC schools that I could see maybe going to the Big East or something, but most of them, I don't know where they would go.
Yeah, so the problem for, like, this won't dissolve the ACC because obviously they have SMU, Cal, Stanford coming in, so they're fine. Like, I don't think, because the other two schools that have been associated with wanting to leave, or three really, Miami isn't really going anywhere because where are they going? Same thing. They're in the same boat. Like, where's Miami going? But the other two are your two state schools, are Virginia and Virginia Tech. And again, it's the same thing. Where are y'all going? Like, the Big Ten doesn't need or want you. They got Maryland. I'm sure Maryland will raise a big stink about that because they don't want to compete with them. I'm assuming. I mean, I don't know. Is that Maryland, Virginia, Vatech rivalry real, or am I making that up? You live in that region. So
I don't really know if there's a lot of rivalry, and to be honest with you, I think that's a lot of it because, like, certain schools are not as good as other schools. Like, I don't see there being a rivalry between those schools. But I also didn't go to any of those schools. I do know that there's, like, the schools in Virginia, there for sure are a rivalry between. Right. For sure. There's no doubt about that. Maryland, I don't really know as much if they care, to be honest with you, because they are, I would say, a step above the athletics at any of the schools in Virginia, besides maybe Tech.
Okay. All right. So, yeah. So, like, for those of you that don't know, like, it's Clemson and Florida State, and also the other two that we're thinking about leaving and suing was Virginia and Vatech. And again, we just talked about Virginia, the basketball powerhouse. The SEC doesn't need that. They're just getting Oklahoma and Texas, and the Big Ten doesn't need it either. So like, it's again, I guess, if they wanted, maybe Virginia and Virginia Tech, if they wanted to leave, they could go to the Big Ten. Because I guess you can squeeze that because it's just like the farthest they're going is the West Coast, and they already have Maryland. So maybe they want to get into Virginia. But, like, that's for Clemson and FSU, essentially what's going to happen is, because they only really have two options. I doubt the Big Ten wants them. So they only really have the SEC. And, I mean, with Oklahoma and Texas there, you essentially what's going to happen is they're going to get little brothered if they go to the SEC because they're not both of them are more basketball powerhouses than football powerhouses now. And
It's
it's been a
true.
long
It's
time
true.
since FSU has been good at basketball. So on the men's side, the women's side, I think they're a little bit better. So, I can't see them in the SEC only, and not just because Oklahoma and Texas are there now, but just because they're going to end up being the Vanderbilts, two ACC powerhouses that might end up being Vanderbilts if they go to the SEC. And that's no knock on Vanderbilt, but they can't.
No,
They're in the SEC and can't compete, and it's the same. It's going to be the same thing with these two if they go there.
yeah, it's the double-edged sword. They're too good. They feel like they're too good for the ACC, but they're not really good enough to go anywhere else. So not really sure
Right.
what they want to do.
It's all money.
Well, yes, of course. I mean, that's the reason why UConn at one point this year was talking about leaving the Big East for football. And everybody was like, that's insane. Why would you do that? Why would you leave the Big East for football when football is not the main sport that brings in money but apparently it does. Even though football is not great at UConn, it still somehow brings in more money than the basketball program does, which I find hard to believe, but
it's just because of this. I'm assuming it's probably because of the stadium size, correct?
Well, the stadium is it's like not even in, it's not even on campus for UConn.
Oh, wow. So you got to work to get, maybe that's why.
Yeah. Well, it's probably, partially, honestly.
But yeah, so we'll stay up to date on this. We'll see if Virginia or Virginia Tech join in. They probably will not because they're probably saying the same thing. Like, are we going to go be little brother than the SEC or little brother than the Big Ten? Like, maybe the Big 12, maybe the Big 12 will take them.
Maybe.
Even that might be, but then you're going to go get little brother by Baylor. So I just don't know. I just don't know if any, that might be the option for them, the Big 12, because they can't go to the SEC or the Big 10. I don't. But the Big 12 is like a bad. That seems like the logical option, the Big 12. But the Big 12 is more of a basketball powerhouse anyway. And again, these two schools don't really do any, unless you like women's basketball, which both of us do. This really doesn't do anything for them, because the Big 12 is basically a basketball powerhouse,
Yeah, and again, they're just not good enough at anything to be in a different division, in my opinion. But yeah. I also am, I don't know. I think it's silly, and I wish that it was. I don't know. I wish they would just suck it up, do their contract, and then figure something out afterwards.
Yeah. Well, maybe the Big East. Maybe the Big East will get 2 new members.
Can't wait.
All right. So the other big story, just a bad week if you're an NCAA fan. The Dartmouth Empire strikes back as they are appealing the National Labor Relations Board. Did I get that right? NLRB? Yeah. National Labor Relations Board approval of Dartmouth's men's basketball. Yes, union. So what's our reaction to this? I'll start. My reaction is it's kind of expected. These schools cannot have. I kind of previewed this last week, even though neither one of us knew this was going to happen. Kai Stradamus over here kind of previewed it by saying that the NCAA's argument against a union is their whole thing is these students. These athletes are amateurs, right? Like, that's the reason why, Suni Lee had to wait. Suni Lee and a couple of other Olympians had to do the Olympics first, get the money, then go do, college gymnastics, because these athletes are considered amateurs in college sports.
Yep.
Even though we both know some athletes, probably have friends that are former athletes or current athletes right now in college sports. They work, that is their full-time job, right? They go to class, but really their full-time job is lift weights, work out, do walkthrough, do sport. And you know, a lot of them, this is no disrespect to them, because a lot of them get 3.5s, 3.9s, 4.0s. They do a great job. But come on, anybody that's a student on a college campus or a former student knows that these college athletes, even though they do go to class, their mind isn't really there. Their mind is, they're just there because their coaches make them go. You know, most of these schools, we both went to very academically challenging schools that made their athletes go to college. I mean, go to class. And I mean, it's probably even more so at an Ivy like Dartmouth, right? So, but amateurism is the last vestige of the argument for the NCAA, because if they're not amateurs, did you lose me?
No, I can hear you.
Okay. So the amateurism is the last thing that they have. And if they don't have amateurism, then there has to be, just like an NBA union and the NFL union, the MLS union, then there has to be a players union. And if there's a players union, that means that Nick Saban and Nick Saban's retired. That means that these coaches have to share even more of the pot. And their worst nightmare is a situation like the NBA has, a 50-50 split. They do not want that, because that's billions of dollars that these schools ain't getting. So they do not want that. So that's why it behooves Dartmouth, even though it's stupid, to keep challenging this, because ultimately it's going to end up probably at the Supreme Court, and they're going to lose. The Supreme Court has already struck down the NCAA's amateurism thing, so they're going to lose. Like, all this is for naught. They're going to lose. But you know, that is what's happening. Your thoughts on this?
It's really interesting. Because I was talking to some people earlier on in the season, like right before when I was at right before the football season was about to start, and it was when there was all this stuff coming out with Harbaugh and getting penalized for different kind of recruiting violations. And I was asking, you know, why is it seeming like the NCAA is being so nitpicky and so obsessive? And they said, because they're losing power. Every day they lose more and more power. All of the things that in the past was their job to look over are no longer things that need to be looked over anymore. And they're freaking out because they know that inevitably sooner or later they're going to become irrelevant. And I think that they're scared. And I think that this is a way of them saying, no, we still can have control. We still can have control. So I agree. I mean, I don't know. I go back and forth all the time. I understand that, you know, the problem is that we do all of this stuff thinking about football and basketball, and we don't think about soccer and lacrosse and track and field and swimming and all of these other sports that, you know, these kids might not ever get to make money again playing their sport in their life. So let them make their money. Let them do their things. And I don't know. I understand the purpose of the union. I understand the purpose of all of this stuff. Totally get it. And I think that that's totally valid. And maybe there just needs to be a say of like the NCAA has to come in and tell the schools like what they have to provide for each college and university. But I see both sides of it. And I think that's what's really hard about this.
Yeah, I would say this, like, you know, I literally, I come from an undergrad that's a D3 powerhouse in swimming. like Albright College, that's a D3 powerhouse. That is the Mount Union of swimming in the MAC conference in D3. So I really do appreciate the fact that, you know, that you know, lacrosse, track, all them sports, the non-revenue generating sports. But I would say this to that argument. I don't like the fact that that's the argument that every college uses. Oh, well, you know, basketball and football supports that. And I would be like, then why are these students paying tuition? Like, that is not basketball and football's job to fund the rest of these college programs. You know whose job that is? That is the job of each of these individual schools. You know, and I'm not saying you need to do a tuition raise, because Lord knows that's high enough, especially as two people that went to grad school. We know that's high enough. Like, you know, all I'm saying is it is not basketball and footballs. And if you go to these schools that are lacrosse powerhouses, like our two schools that are represented here, JMU and Syracuse, that is the job of the college. You know, like There is a reason why, West Point and the rest of these schools continue to have powerhouses in these different sports. That's the job of these schools. Now, these schools need to figure out how to split that money. That's not my job.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
not that's
that's
not
fair.
the job. That's not the job of Paige Beckers. That's not the job of Caitlin Clark. That's not the job. That's not the job of Jordan Travis. That's not the job of any of these football and basketball players. That is the job of insert president or chancellor's name here. Like that is the job. What are these kids paying tuition for? If your first argument against all of this is, oh, we'll have to cut gymnastics, we'll have to cut softball. Well, whose job is that, president? Like whose job is that? Do you have to raise tuition? Again, I'm not saying you should raise tuition, but figure it out, because that's not. These schools need to understand that very soon the NCAA, like you said, is going to be irrelevant. It's irrelevant now. We just saw a court order just a couple of weeks ago that we talked about. The University of Tennessee, the update to that is the Tennessee court basically said to the NCAA that since all 50 states and territories have different laws for this, you can't regulate that over state law. You don't supersede state law. So that means that there's 50 states and each state can do what they want with NIL. So if that's the case, then these schools, all these people got, we both got master's degrees. They got a degree higher than us. They got doctorates. So they're smart enough to understand where this is going. Hint, get yourself some money so you can fund all these programs. That's it. Stop relying on, we got vitamin A. Amateurism is dead. It's been, y'all know that's the biggest lie ever. It's been dead. It's officially dead. Start figuring out how to fund these programs. And your first threat shouldn't be, well, we need basketball and football to not get the money that they make because we got to fund gymnastics and track and field. We got this. Oklahoma makes it work. Oklahoma has one of the best gymnastics programs in the country. Oklahoma makes it work. I don't know if football or basketball funds that, but Oklahoma makes it work. Texas makes it work. Make it work. UCLA makes it work. Make it work.
That's fair. Very fair.
Yeah. So overall, should Dartmouth, this is the question that we just literally answered, but real quickly here. Should Dartmouth's administration just negotiate to get this over with? Yes, they should, but they have to dive on this, like both of us are saying, they have to dive on the sword for the NCAA, because like I said, without vitamin A, amateurism, they have nothing else to stand on, because then they have to figure out, all right, what's the percentage? And we all know these kids ain't taking 2%. What's 2%? Again, both of us don't math, but what's, to the accountants that are listening, what's 2% of $1 billion? Like, get higher than that. like these coaches and stuff get billions of dollars. And obviously that's why a lot of these coaches and these schools don't want that to happen. But to the question that Morgan, unfortunately, there's no Morgan does. You want to explain this? There's no Morgan does hockey today, right?
Well, yeah. So yes. Why I'm not doing hockey. It's March Madness. I don't have time for anything else.
She'll be back.
We'll be back for the playoffs. Yes, for sure. We'll do a pre-playoffs preview before the playoffs start. So don't worry, you still get me talking hockey. I just fortunately have to focus on all of the
basketball and football.
Basketball. Sorry, I got a text and I got distracted.
No, it's okay.
Sorry. Well, yeah, I got to focus on basketball. Focus on the draft that's coming up in 3 weeks. It's crazy.
Yeah. Are you going?
No. We got Mike and
the dog is into the chat.
Hey, buddy.
What's up, Mike?
Yeah.
Look at him looking around like, who said my name?
Why are you crying? All right. March Madness. Let's go. Okay. I think everyone knows this. The Big East. I mean, just biggest snubs. One of the hardest conferences, one of the best conferences. 2 teams that should have been in. St. John's for sure kept it close with UConn during the semifinal game. Seton Hall should have been in for sure. They beat UConn outright. Number 1 team in the country. Yeah, it's just tough. It seems like they're getting no respect. I know you have a different opinion on the snub, so I'll let you go with that.
Also, let me just say, just to start with, like, obviously, St. John's, Seton Hall, Villanova. There's a couple of schools, maybe not Villanova, but Seton Hall and St. John's got snubbed. Syracuse got snubbed, obviously. Like, how can you just 3 weeks ago beat a North Carolina team that had beat Duke twice, and that not help you in the at least get in. I'm not. I think even last week I said that Syracuse would probably be a double digit seed.
Yeah.
Probably end up in the play in, but they just decided that that ACC team that we all know doesn't belong, but is there just because of legacy, went to Virginia. And Morgan has a whole rant on one of her hometown colleges that I will let her get to because I know she wants to go in on Virginia and make who's right, all the Who fans upset at her.
The Wahoos.
The Wahoos, okay, whatever, close enough. You Hoosier fans, stay tuned for that one. Not Hoosiers or whatever. You know what I mean.
Who's?
Yeah. Who's Cavaliers, right? Virginia Cavaliers. That's what they
Yeah.
are, right? Yeah. All you Cavaliers fans, stay tuned for that one.
Wait, it is the Who's. The Wahoos? The Who's?
Yeah.
No, I'm confused.
You should know better than me.
Myself. I should. Now I'm confused myself.
We'll Google it.
Who cares?
But yeah. So I am of the mindset that there were a couple of big time snubs, obviously in Clemson. Not Clemson, in Syracuse, Seton Hall made it, St. John's, and a bunch of other teams. So I think that the Big East went Florida State and wrote a whole paragraph and sentence about why they should have been in. And I was like, does this mean the Big East is about to dissolve? Like the way I've never seen the Big East so mad in my life. So yeah, but the ultimate thing here is a couple of things happened here. The NCAA or the college basketball people wanted them to schedule more non-conference games. Is why you saw like Syracuse, Indiana, UConn, UNC, a bunch of Big East teams at UNC, because these teams wanted to be able to beat the UNCs, the Syracuse, the Blue Bloods, and the like tier below Blue Bloods, so they can have that say. And the Big East did that, right? And a couple of the teams in the Big East did that. Obviously, the one thing that we say about the Big East is out of all these conferences, the Big East, especially in basketball, just beats up on each other. And by the time they get to the tournament, they're all hardened, right? But yeah, so the Big East was really mad because they did the formula, and the NCAA basically said, screw your formula. We're putting Virginia in over your teams. So that's essentially what happened. But yeah, my biggest snubs, same with you, St. John's, Syracuse, Villanova, because I think Villanova should have gotten in. I think they did enough. But obviously they put UConn, Marquette, and Creighton in there. Xavier probably should have been in too. But I will let you go. I will let you go because you have a whole rant on Virginia.
I just we knew what that game was going to be. We knew they were going to score 10 points and sorry, my microphone fell off. We knew they were going to score 12 points in the first half. They were atrocious. They couldn't make a shot. You're telling me that a St. John, a Villanova, a Syracuse game wouldn't have been more enjoyable than that? That was horrible. Horrible. Not fun football. Not football, basketball. I don't know why I said football. Not fun basketball because it was like a fucking Sorry, I didn't mean to curse. It was a football score. They scored 2 touchdowns in the first half. 2 touchdowns. They scored 14 points. That's horrible. Horrible. I get that they're in because of their name and they won the championship a few years ago. And I understand that. But it was not fun. It was not fun to watch. It was bad. It was really bad. And that's all. I just can't say anything more about it. It was just really, really bad. Really bad. It was embarrassing. They need to just get it right next time. It was horrible. Are you on mute?
Sorry.
I was
Sorry.
like, am
No,
I going crazy?
no. I was on mute. My bad. Self mute there.
I'm like
So
looking around. I like checked my headphones. I was like, is it me? Am I going crazy?
no, live show, ladies and gentlemen. But should the tournament expand to 80 teams? So Tom Izzo came out. Again, these coaches giving opinions unsolicited came out and basically said that the automatic bids need to be looked into. Just because, sort of like what Morgan said, these coaches obviously are looking out for themselves. Their checks depend on them making the tournament. So obviously, he wants more big time programs like the St. John's of the world, the Syracuses of the world, the Villanovas of the world, making it over the JMUs and the other teams that get automatic bids. Now we could argue that. I'm not here to argue against that, obviously, because my co-host friend and colleague over here, school is in the automatic bids, and I don't want to tread that water. I don't want to have JMU. I'm not saying that. That's not Tom Izzo was just saying that they need to look at the automatic bids. Now you can make of that what you will. Um, but I think that it should expand so that way to 80 teams. So that way everybody gets what they want. People like me get to see the schools that they are alums of, like Syracuse, or hometown schools like Villanova. You get the same thing. Maybe you get Virginia Tech, maybe you get VCU, maybe you get a couple of more schools. And I think as long as the time period is still the same, maybe it extends a week so it cuts in a little bit more with the NBA playoffs or something. But I think as long as it stays the same, as long as the automatic bids stay in, because I like the automatic bids, I think it helps people like me that don't get to watch the SWAC, the MEAC, and all these other conferences that are just there's so many conferences in college basketball, right? It's even more numerous than college football. So like, I enjoyed watching Howard and Delaware State on Saturday before I went to Axe Throwing, going at each other to get the MEAC championship so Howard could get in. Obviously, Howard lost, but like it was exciting to see that because I don't get to see Howard College basketball because I live in Philadelphia, so like I don't get to see that all the time, right? I have to go look for that. Right. So I don't mind the automatic bids. I get what Izzo is saying because obviously there's too many contracts, sort of like football, that rely on NCAA appearances, and it looks better if you expand it. So I'm all for that because I think it's fair. And also, I just would love to see more automatic bids and see these big time programs have to deal with schools like Florida Gulf Coast University beating a Georgetown, a UMBC beating a Virginia. Like that's for some of these schools, these upsets put them on the map. Like, whoever heard of
Yeah.
Florida Gulf Coast University before they beat Georgetown 3 or 4 years ago? I know that probably has nightmares for you, Morgan, because I know you got some Georgetown fans in your family. So I know that even bringing this up when they hear this is going to make them upset. Because I know a couple of Georgetown alums that are probably texting. They're probably going to hear this and be mad at me later. So they hate that. That's like the biggest embarrassment ever because that was a good Georgetown team. I am of the mindset that if we want more of that, why not expand? Morgan?
We disagree on this. We don't disagree very often on here. I think that they should just get it right the first time. And I think that here's what I mean about get it right the first time. And I've seen a lot of people saying this, and I think this is an interesting way to do it. If you lose so your conference championship, so if you have what's called a bid stealer, right? Like they win, they get an automatic bid, then that bid should come out of that conference. You know what I mean? Like a bid stealer shouldn't, like, just because a team in the Mountain West won or the SWAC won wasn't expected to win doesn't mean that they should get a bid taken out of UConn. Yeah, so UConn, the number 1 seed, won. That's what was expected. So they get all their bids. If you have a bid stealer, that should come out of your conference. I don't remember who said this, and I was listening to it, and I was like, that makes so much sense. I like that. There's no reason why the Mountain West has 6 teams in, and the Big East has 3. That's crazy. They had
Yeah.
2 ranked teams in their division. So, of course, teams are going to have more losses because they had 2 teams in the top 10 for almost the entire season.
Yeah. Yeah, I can. That's a good idea. I like that. The other thing is, like, I think if you're a team like a UConn or a UNC or obviously NC State won, but I think NC State would have been in anyway, even if they didn't.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, right? This time of year, this is why, like, and I don't just say this as a sports media professional because Morgan has heard me say this a lot. A lot of you, let's just say, because I hate using the term normie or casuals for people not in our field. But a lot of people inside our industry, like, obviously Joe Lunardi and them make a lot of money to tell y'all who's gonna make it in and who's not. But I mean, he was wrong. But a lot of other people were wrong this year, and that's just what it is. I mean, Morgan knows this. It's a crapshoot anyway, trying to pick March Madness. And obviously, I don't envy him and Ken Palm and all these other people because, like, all this stuff is just arbitrary stuff that the NCAA doesn't take into consideration anyway. Like, for those of you that don't know, if you haven't figured it out because of the way they do the football playoffs, it's a popularity contest. Like, if it wasn't for these bids, like, it would literally be a popularity contest in college basketball. Like, so if you like tournaments where it's a bunch of blue bloods, Syracuse, Kentucky, and none of these small schools ever get in, that's why they need the automatic bids. But I will agree with what Morgan said, that teams like NC, obviously NC State needed it, but teams like UConn who both win their regular season and then win the tournament, they shouldn't then get a bid because obviously UConn and Houston were two of the best. Houston and UConn are two examples of this because they both won their regular season and then conference tournament. They shouldn't have gotten more bids. Like, that bid should have gone to who lost that game. Now, obviously, for both of those teams, the teams that they lost to got in the tournament anyway. So it should have then, to me, if you win your conference at the regular season tournament, like, that bid should then go to, if the second place team is already going to be in the tournament, it should go to the third, the fourth, and the fifth place teams because those teams are probably not going to be in. And then you won't have a situation like you had here where the ACC and the Big East are two of the best basketball conferences in the country, but both of them only have, I think, 3 or 4 teams in. Where, like,
I don't know how much the ACC. I know that the Big East has 3.
Well, I think it's Clemson. Well, they might have. I say we because ACC school. They might have 4: Clemson, NC State, UNC, and NC. Did I say and Duke? I think that's it.
Yeah.
So that's 4. But again, 7 amongst the 2 best conferences. Obviously, some of this
almost is like the Mountain West has just as many, which is crazy. Like, these 2 combined, like,
yeah.
It's crazy.
So it's crazy. It's crazy. Do you have anything else before we move on? I mean,
let's move on. Let's move on. I'm gonna get mad. Games have just tipped off. I'm getting excited.
I'm revealing a little bit of my bracket. So right now, what you're seeing is my bracket. The top half, I've got UConn and FAU.
Okay.
You can see. Yeah. You can see. So ultimately, this is where I reveal my final 4. So for those of you that don't know, Morgan and I are in a bracket together with a bunch of other of our friends. Some of them in sports media, some of them not. You can totally join if you want to. Obviously, the games are tipped off, but if you want to join, a lot of my friends, I don't know about your friends who are not in the field, but a lot of them are very, I don't want to say intimidated, but are like, oh, you guys do so well. I don't know if I'll do well.
No one knows.
I tell them all the time, this is a crapshoot. We don't know. We don't know.
No one knows anything.
We don't know, just like you don't know. But my final 4, I've got UConn, North Carolina, because I got to show the ACC some love, Houston and Creighton. And that's more because I have no faith in Tennessee or Purdue.
What? Houston beating UConn? Boo.
Oh, look, I did 4 of these. So it's literally the same. It's literally, I've got 4 of these. So in half of them, UConn wins. And then the other 2, Houston wins. So just to go back here and prove that.
Let me
Um,
pull up my bracket. So I did the
no,
same. I only did one bracket.
it's all good. You see, UConn, Houston.
Okay,
It's all
okay,
it's all good. I got
okay.
I got you. I got you. This is yours, right? Morgan picks one. Is this the one that you did?
Probably. Yep. Oh, you
So
can't see my bracket technically. Okay, I'll share my screen.
okay. Well, while she waits on that. So anyway, I've got, like I said, Creighton, Houston, UConn, and UNC in the title game. And here's Morgan's bracket. I'm gonna let her
All right,
explain.
mine's a little bit unconventional. Okay, so I have a lot of it is more like what I want to happen more than what I think is going to happen. It's like I'm manifesting it. So I have Yale beating Auburn, so we don't even have to play Auburn. And then I have my Elite Eight is BYU, UConn. How do I scroll down? Oh, do I do that? Is it scrolling?
Yeah, just scroll down.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So then on the other side of the bracket, obviously I had to have JMU getting to the Elite Eight. They do beat Houston, but they lose to Marquette. So my 12 seed Dukes are going to beat Kylan's Houston championship team. So I'm excited about that. I'm really excited about this NC State team. I think they're really fun to watch. Have you seen the big kid on that team?
Yeah, Shaq Jr. I've seen, that's not his name, but yes. He's a fun guy. I hated the fact that he ran through Syracuse last week, but he's a fun dude. He looks like a fun dude.
He's a fun guy. I mean, he moves so well. I was like, no way that the football coach has not like tried to poach him or something.
I think they said he used to run track. I think he's like a 3-sport
really?
athlete, if I'm not mistaken.
That's
I think they
crazy.
said he used to run track. And he's like, I don't know how fast he runs, but he used to run track. Don't give me the lion, I think. I think I heard them say he used to run track. And he may have played football because he's built like he played football at some point.
Built like a football player. Yeah. But I'm really excited about that team. I think they're really fun. All right, I'm going to scroll down to the bottom half. I've got North Carolina losing to Alabama. Baylor coming out of there. I told you, it's a fun bracket. And then
that's a wish. You know that's a wish. That's why
it is.
So in our bracket, right? I gave people some people aren't as generous as me. Some people is 1 and done or 2 and done. I did 4, so people can run the gambit. Obviously Morgan only did 1.
I did 1. Brackets. I'm so confident. I did 1 in each of my things. So we'll keep you guys updated as this goes along. How many points we have, what our maximum points we can get are, all that fun jazz. Yeah, it's going to be really fun. I'm really, really excited. Again, like the games are about to start. So we're going to zip through the rest of this podcast because games are starting. We got to start watching.
Well, just in my opinion, when I do a bracket, I actually do brackets like this all the time where I either pick, obviously Syracuse isn't in it this year, but I call these my nonsensical dream bracket of Syracuse Nova title game with Syracuse winning. Obviously, that's not gonna, or a Nova Syracuse time, a Nova Syracuse bracket. But yeah, so that is our brackets, and we will keep you guys updated, as Morgan said. But keeping it moving, Marvin Harrison Jr. For those of you that don't know, Marvin Harrison Jr., son of the great Marvin Harrison Sr. From the Colts, is choosing to not work out at OSU Pro Day. And the question is, Morgan, if you want to take this first, should more prospects do this if their top 5 pick position is assured? And I know people like Mike Florio and Chris Sims are pulling their hair out because they did not like that top 5 picks didn't want to do a pro day this year. But go ahead.
Here's the thing. Yeah, like they put a lot of stuff on the field. I understand that. I just don't like, what's the benefit of not doing it? I just don't know what, like, I don't know. I just don't get it. Like, what's the harm in running a 40 and catching some balls from your quarterback? I just don't get it. Why not? It makes me seem like you're scared or there's something wrong or there's something hurt. Not saying that there is. Of course, he's put a lot of tape out there, but there's a reason why everyone does this. And there's a reason why, like, I don't know, is he trying to make himself drop? There's all this stuff out there now saying, a lot of people are saying that he might not even be the number 1 receiver in the draft. So why would you not go out there and try and prove yourself? I just don't understand.
Mm. I think what it is he feels like, he's a top 5 pick. Like you say, he's put enough tape out there. I also just think that obviously, cover your ears, Morgan, because you just were there. But the combine and the pro day seems like it's outdated to this new generation where they feel like this new generation of football players that are kind of like basketball players, where they feel like I've got a highlight tape, I've got this out there. You've seen me for 2-3 years be the best wide receiver on the field. It's kind of guaranteed. I feel like he already knows that he's going to be a top 3 pick. I feel like this Malik Neighbors stuff is just noise. I can't see, right? Again, and I'm an advocate of, obviously, as Morgan knows, I think I haven't advocated this as hard, but I'm an advocate of the Eagles trading up right now and going to get him as a top 3 pick. He could be wide receiver number 3, with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, and do that. Obviously, how he sees it, it won't happen, but it theoretically could in my head canon. But I'm an advocate of the Bears, and Morgan can tell you because she could attest to this because I've said this on this podcast before, even before they traded Keenan Allen, that it should have been Malik Harrison, Marvin Harrison, as their number 1 pick. So you could have a quarterback, because I think the best combination is a quarterback and a wide receiver who grew up together, right? You have the same thing in Kansas City. Obviously, it's tight end quarterback, because that dynamic just grows. You got 2 people growing together that become better, and it just builds chemistry and makes the team better. And I don't understand Keenan, obviously, we're not going to get into this because that just happened this week. But to me, I think that was a dumb trade by Chicago. I honestly understand that, Keenan Allen, because he's Keenan Allen, but Keenan Allen is old. He's in his 30s. He's kind of middling anyway. He kind of benefited from having Justin Herbert and Austin Eckler taking pressure off of him, and Mike Williams. I don't know if he's still a number 1 wide receiver anymore. So if I was Chicago, obviously, as we all know, they're going to get Caleb Williams. It's all but assured now that they've traded Justin Fields. But I think, as Morgan knows, and as I've said on this podcast before, it's stupid of Chicago to do this. But, it's the Chicago Bears. Stupid decisions is what they've been doing over the last few years. So I will say that I think that Chicago is making a huge mistake. Even though I think Caleb Williams is going to be a star, he's a superstar, he oozes superstar. I just think they should do the wide receiver route, because that's what old school Chicago, the Bears, would do. Wide receiver, defense, running back, do that. But obviously, Ryan Poles gets paid a lot more money than I do to make these decisions. So Caleb Williams, maybe he can find a way to trade back in and get Marvin Harrison Jr. But that's the only way that, to me, this draft is going to go from B- C+ to B. I'm going to go Chris Sims. This is going to be a B- C+ draft for the Bears, because I think instead of relying on Keenan Allen, they need to get another wide receiver, and it should be Marvin Harrison Jr., but it's going to be Caleb Williams.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah. But that has no. I didn't answer the question. But yeah, to me, I went on a tangent about Keenan Allen and the Bears. But to me, I just think it doesn't mean as much, right? Pro days and combines really don't mean as much, because I think the Hassan Reddick generation of football players, which was 2018, crazy, almost 6 years ago, that I think was the last the 2018, 2019, and 2020 class. You're obviously seeing it, right? The class of 2020 quarterbacks all got traded, and they're all backup quarterbacks now. So, the draft and the pro days really don't mean much, because, like we said, with March Madness is very apt for NFL drafting too. It's all a crapshoot. You don't know. The tape lies. You don't really know. So I just think Marvin Harrison Jr. has been advised by his Hall of Fame father that he doesn't need to do a pro day. He's going to be a top 6 pick. Malik Neighbors is not better than him. I know there's a bunch of LSU people that are like, yes, he is, but no, we know who the number 1 receiver is. in this draft and who the second best player in this draft is Marvin Harrison Jr. If nothing else, because his father was that dude, and this dude is him. Like, Marvin Harrison Jr. is him. You got anything to add to that? No. All right.
No.
So speaking of, two of the best defensive tackles retired in these last 2 weeks. Fletcher Cox and Aaron Donald, two really, really great Hall of Fame players. One probably Aaron Donald being a first ballot Hall of Famer. Now, Eagles fans, don't scream at me. I also think that Fletcher Cox should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. But I mean, let's be real. Aaron Donald, Fletcher Cox, we all know that Aaron Donald is going to be a first ballot, and maybe Fletcher Cox will be second ballot. But they're both game records. They're both him. They both had great careers. Both got the same amount of Super Bowl rings, 1, 2 combined. So, and they both killed Deebo Samuel. So proud of that. But yeah, so there are quarterbacks on both sides of the NFC, on both coasts of the NFC East and the NFC West, that are breathing a sigh of relief that both of these players are no longer there. So I just think Aaron Donald is a first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, this dude was out here bear hugging Alex Smith, taking 3 offensive linemen with him, straight out of Pittsburgh. Shout out to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. What can you say? I mean, these are two of the best. These are your favorite defensive tackles. Like, and Aaron Donald really was like the god of positionless football, because that's what it is now on the defensive line. It's all positionless now. So to me, I know Mike Florio and Chris Sims and people like them are probably like, there is no positionless football. Blah, 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 blah. But it's positionless because this dude could be a defensive tackle. He could be a defensive end. He lined up in various different places. Obviously, Fletcher Cox is more of the defensive tackle person. But, Aaron Donald, props to you bringing a Super Bowl home. Props to Fletcher Cox being that game record, being that guy. I know a little bit more about Fletcher Cox than I know about Aaron Donald, having covered him and been a fan of him here in Philadelphia for a decade. And I am just in awe of Fletcher Cox, like straight out of Mississippi to come in, just do his job, be quiet, not really be quiet, but you know what I mean, like do his job and just make the impact. And I just, Fletcher's that guy, man, a forever Eagle. It's kind of a shame that him and Jason Kelce went out as shameful as they did in Tampa Bay, but two of the all-time great Eagles. I'm so glad that they got a Super Bowl ring and didn't retire Super Bowl ringless like a lot of other Eagles greats. Go ahead, Morgan.
Yeah, it's been a crazy year for retirements of some big names, some big faces in the NFL. I have to say, Fletcher Cox is one of the largest human beings I've ever seen in person.
He is.
He is. You can't even imagine. He is so big. When you put pads on him.
Story time with Colin. Sorry to cut you off. I almost met him at the airport. We were picking up my mom, who was coming back home from Arkansas. And I just saw him walking like to his car to re-sign his contract. This was like 2 or 3 summers ago. Really big human being. Like, it had I don't know if it's a requirement that they need to wear. I mean, because I don't know how many football. Obviously, you've talked to them and maybe you've seen some of them out in public. Do they all just wear like their hoodie? I call it a hoodie jersey, a hoodsie, if you will. Like they all have like, because he literally had 91 tops on the hoodie with his thing on it. I'm all like, is that just his favorite hoodie, or is that just a requirement of football players that they need to wear that? Because you're right, he is big. He's built like a football player. Like, they lie on TV because you think he's fatter than he is. That is all muscle. Like, I see them in person. That is all muscle. Like, you go right ahead though. You were, but that.
Yeah, no, he really is a extraordinarily large human being. I have only ever heard absolutely amazing things about him as well. I've heard he is an absolute angel person to work with. And it's going to be sad to leave him. I got to do an interview with Aaron Donald up in Buffalo a few summers ago. And again, super, super, super nice person. it's just always sad. It's a changing of the guard, and it's not a bad thing for sure, but it's definitely it makes you think. Everything's getting you're getting older. People are retiring. It's sad.
Right. Right. The football players we grew up with in childhood and teenagerdom and college and grad school of them are retiring, which is crazy. Like I think Brandon Graham is the last Eagle left from the draft classes from when I was in college. I think Brandon Graham is the only
Really?
Eagle left from my college years of drafting, I believe. I might be wrong about that, but I believe.
That's
Which is
funny.
crazy because he's also an all-time Eagle. Like I met him at when I interned at NBC Sports Philadelphia. So he's the nicest human being ever. Like he literally was like, "New guy, pow!" Like, and I'm just like, "Bro, like I just
Do you
pounded."
know who you are?
Yeah, like he is the nicest guy ever. Like obviously this is not Brandon Graham is still playing, but Fletcher Cox almost met him at the Philadelphia airport. Well, saw him get into the car because I wasn't fast enough. But yeah, it's a shame. But yeah, I think Brandon Graham is like the last class of Eagles from when I was like early teens or young adult childhood. I don't know how many like Giants players are left from your college years.
None. Not really.
But yeah.
Shep was the last one.
Oh wow. Not Saquon? Oh yeah, well Saquon's gone, but he's still playing.
Saquon also was he got drafted when I was out of college,
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay.
I know.
All right. So our next thing. The NBA goes all in with sports betting, expanding partnerships to live betting during games. Reacts. So for those of you that don't know, I'll do the introduction for this one. For those of you that don't know, it came out yesterday, I believe, from Front Office Sports, I think. Morgan,
that's where I saw it, but I don't know if it was anything else.
From Front Office Sports, like it is for those of you that don't know, the NBA, if you're a live bettor, is diving in, right? They're the first of the big four now. They're going to expand their partnership. I believe their partnership is with FanDuel to start doing live betting now when you watch NBA games. So, when you watch for the people in Philadelphia that watch this podcast, when you watch Sixers games now, you might get Sixers and then like a thing of like the live line, and so you'll get to see the line move. You'll get to see your player props. I believe that's the idea here. I don't know if a lot of y'all have enough TV space for that, depending on the size of your screen. But people like Morgan and I, and people that are more production and graphics savvy, are going to work on that to make it work. Not us two, but other people.
I was going to say not me, but.
Morgan, they got you doing live graphics now.
God knows.
So yeah, so that's what the thing is. They're gonna do that, and it's crazy, right? I mean, obviously, we talked on this podcast before that the NBA is very progressive. I think this might be a little too progressive of the NBA, just because like both Morgan and I are in that age group that they're trying to appeal to with this. Now, I don't bet. I know Morgan bets a little bit, right? Not a lot.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Not a lot. A little bit.
A little bit. So like I literally think. I mean, again, this is 3 segments in a row where I'm gonna say like those of you that do sports betting, it's a crapshoot. Obviously, you listen to people like us that tell you, "Hey, Tyrese Maxey has scored 30 plus points. The last 3 games," and some of you make that bet. And then it doesn't work out like it did last night where you only scored like 10 points. So like, it's a crapshoot, this stuff happens. So, but my personal opinion of this is that I think it's a little too progressive. I think kind of previewing my answer for the next question. I think the NBA is gonna like, it's opening itself up to like doing with a lot of things. Like, I live in Philadelphia. I live near Atlantic City. Atlantic City casinos have really gotten in trouble for this for like, essentially like, not forcing people to gamble, but, feeding the habit and ultimately making people like extreme gamblers. So like Vegas does it. Like I think the NBA is like walking that fine line and walking a little bit too close to the line. But this is going to bring money into their pockets. This is going to, like I said, make that crapshoot, make they're going to make. I think Morgan and I are both in agreement on this. Next fall, next fall because it's 2025. They are going to make, because I don't want any of y'all to be jealous, you soccer fans, you baseball fans, and you football fans. You're seeing this with this partnership. The NBA is going to blow the NFL out the water with the contract they're about to get next year for these TV rights. I don't think that is not a prediction. That is a spoiler. Like, they are not doing things like this without knowing that they're about to get like $8 billion for them rights. Right?
Yeah, no, there's they don't do anything that's not calculated, if that makes sense.
Right.
They're very smart and they have a lot of money, and they don't do things without thinking 15 times before then.
Yeah, so what's your opinion of this before we jump into the next question?
I think that betting can be really fun, and it can help people get into games that they weren't like extraordinarily excited about before, which is kind of what I use it for. But again, I'm somebody who doesn't have a problem, and there are people that have that it's hard because it can be addicting. It can ruin people's lives. And I'm a big proponent of people are grown-ups and they have to handle their own business. But then again, the more accessible you make this stuff, the more it seems like there's going to be issues. Like how, the problem with a live line is how, I don't know, what if a player, somebody behind the bench is like, dude, I need you to score 3 points to win me $1 million. So just something stupid. Like, I just don't, how do you regulate it? I don't know. I understand the fun and the play, and I am assuming it's going to be an exorbitant amount of money that they're going to make off of this. So that's definitely like why they're doing it. But at some point, it can't always be all about the money, if that makes sense.
No, I totally agree, and I'm going to ask you the same question I asked you off air, just like I said I would. Do you think the NFL should do this?
They all already have so much money, so it's hard for me to be like, it'll help them make money, it'll help them pay the players more. Like I don't know. The NFL, my issue with the NFL is that they already have so many issues with players betting and things like that. Like, do they really want to introduce something new into the equation? I don't know the answer to that. I would say no. There's a million different ways that people can already get in trouble in the NFL. Why do anything more is my kind of take on it. But I know that might sound like an old grandma lame take, I don't know.
Yeah, I think to me, like, the other thing that we didn't talk about off air and that I'll bring up to right now is, I think that this also has the potential to do something that NFL players are very familiar with, which is people jumping into Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis's DMs and being like, "Bro, you should score 3 to 5 more points. You cost me my parlay." So exactly. This does have the potential. This does have the potential, especially now that they're doing this, to increase. Obviously, the basketball players can just take from their football playing colleagues, because I think a lot of this just boils down, as Morgan and I know from covering this. It literally just boils down to Saquon Barkley or whoever just tweets, "Hey guys, I don't care about your fantasy team," and people like you and me, Mike Florio and Chris Sims, cover it and say, "Yeah, they shouldn't care about that." And fans need to stop jumping in these players' DMs because they don't care about that. It's not their money, right? So, but it does have the potential to do this, to do that, and maybe the NBA should really think about that. But they have security. I'm sure they've thought, like you said, they don't make these decisions in a vacuum. So I'm sure that they've already thought about this. And like I said, the NBA has one of the most powerful players unions in sports. So they've already thought about this, or at least I hope they've thought about this. So moving right along, as a follow-up to this question, as we talked about, should the NBA be worried as opening itself up to possible future litigation by getting so cozy with sports betting companies? I think they should. Because again, like both of us are kind of saying, like, right, for those people that don't have a problem and can bet and let it go. But from what I've heard from a lot of my friends, And people have done it, including you. Like it's kind of like getting a tattoo, right? I don't have tattoos, but all my friends that have tattoos say like, you get one, then you get addicted, and you get another one. You go in saying I want one tattoo, and then somehow you get five. like like it's kind of like that. And I'm not saying that betting and having a tattoo are the same thing, but it's the same kind of like thing. It's the adrenaline pumping. It's all of that stuff, and so it's kind of addicting. So I do think that eventually, depending on how the NBA does this, and I'm sure their lawyers are telling them the same thing I'm about to say, is that they are opening themselves up to litigation just because when you have it, because this is mainly, again, geared towards 18 to 40-year-olds, right? Like, they want the NBA, they boast about this. Their audience is basically our age group, 18 to 40. That's their age group. That's the age group that they boast about. That's the age group that they have the most clout with, right? And it can get addicting because you have that 18-year-old kid with mom and dad's credit card or their own credit card that's like, oh, I can get a betting thing. Hey, and they make it real easy. They give you like, what is it like? We'll cover the first $20 for your parlay and stuff. They get you in the door, and then you get your first parlay. You're like, ooh, I can do this. And then before you know it, you're betting on like, I think the Nuggets will win the championship in under 6 games or whatever. Like, and then you're mad if the finals go 7. So like it is kind of addicting, and I do think that they're opening themselves up to litigation. But I'm sure that they'll have a disclaimer, like they always do, saying if you have a problem, go call 1-800-GAMBLER or whatever it is, the gambling line. But I do think that they're opening themselves up to lawsuits, and they need to be careful with this. Like I said, they're really walking that fine line and literally about to jump off into betting, and I don't know if they fully want to dive into that, because I believe that
I agree.
in a couple of years we're going to see the first like big 4 sports litigation of people in our age group who are going to be older by then that have kids that'll be suing the NFL, the NBA. I don't think baseball has this, but baseball is in bed with them too, and hockey too. Like, you're going to see that soon if they follow the NBA's lead. And I believe this is where it's going. I'm not saying that to like guarantee it, but I just think the NBA's got to be careful.
I agree.
Okay. All right. So, oh, go ahead. Did you have something else?
No, I was just saying I agree.
Okay. So, does the impending return of Joel Embiid change your opinion of the Eastern Conference playoff picture? This is a question that we didn't get to last week, not yesterday. But we do have an update. Nick Nurse said yesterday that Joel Embiid has been doing non-contact and is in the ramp-up phase. So he's on track to be back. Like I said last week, in these next 2 to 3 weeks, Sixers fans rejoice. Joel Embiid fans rejoice. Drew Hanlon tweeted yesterday that he was wheels up to Philadelphia. And so does the impending return of Joel Embiid change your opinion of the Eastern Conference playoff picture? I'm going to let you go first, Morgan.
I think that you can't ever count out a star player when they come back, right? Like I mean, I think, yes. I think that there's a chance that he comes back, makes them better, is stronger, is, that leader on the court. So I would say yes. What do you think?
I think yes.
Assuming you're gonna. Okay. Oh, I thought you were gonna say no. That's surprising to me.
No, I think I'm gonna say yes. As a person, as I get ready to pull up these standings like I did last week, I think it was really helpful for people to be able to see this.
Yep.
So right now the Sixers, obviously they just lost to the Suns last night, so they went from 6 down to 8. As you guys can see, again, the play-in tournament is looking like it's going to be right now. If the season were to end today, the Heat, the Sixers, the Bulls, the Hawks on the east side. So you'd have Trae Young, Joel Embiid, Jimmy Butler, and a playoff thing. But I just think that with Joel Embiid coming back, like, I think he's good. Right now there's 13 games left. By the time he comes back, there might still be like 9 games left. I think he's good for 9 for them winning 6 to 9 more games. And
Okay.
then being 47 in whatever, and jumping into that 4, 5, or 6 place, just because I think that Joel Embiid, like I've said before, is that game record. He is him. And just to help people out who are West Coast fans, because we're going to be talking about this team in a minute, you see it's very tight between one through four, really one
Yeah.
through three in the West. The Timberwolves, who we're going to talk about in a second, the Nuggets, the only team in the West to get a playoff spot, and the Thunder. Again, I talked about this last summer. Like, look out for the Thunder. They're making me look like a genius. But yeah, so I think Joel Embiid, like you said, star players can do a lot, especially in the NBA, especially two-way stars like Joel Embiid. And I think that he is definitely good. Like, the Sixers are definitely missing that his 30-plus point, not really 30-plus, but it was really like he was dropping like 50 or 60 a night, and like made it so that he didn't, they didn't really have to play their starters in the third quarter. Like, I think people forget that Joel Embiid, before he got injured, had the Sixers looking like they might be a finals team. And so I think
Yeah.
that the Sixers are going to be, like I said, the only team in the East that I can see stopping the Celtics. It's not the Bucks, it's not the Cavaliers, it's not the Knicks, it's not the Magic, it's not the Pacers, it's not the Heat. It's the 76ers, because that was the team, as we saw last year, that the Celtics barely beat. Like, it took a Jason Tatum 60 piece for them to beat the Sixers. And
Yeah.
honestly, they're more talented this year than they were last year. So it really shouldn't take that, but it did for them to beat the Sixers. It took 7 games and 60 points for them to beat the Sixers. So I think that this is the team that the Celtics don't want to see. The Celtics don't want to see the
Yeah.
Sixers. They want to see any other team but the Sixers. That's what I think. I think that they don't have anybody who could deal with Joel Embiid. Tyrese Maxey, it seems like, has exercised those demons. So I just think that, yeah, the Sixers, despite their position, they'll be a 6, 5, or 4 seed. I think they still are a top 2 team in the Eastern Conference, and a top 3 team to make it. And I think that, his return really is going to be a good thing for the Sixers.
You're very
Moving
positive. I like it.
Yeah, moving right along. Oh, you have anything to add to that? Moving right along to the other thing that we're going to talk about to wrap up this NBA segment. The Minnesota Timberwolves, as we just saw, they're number 3. Are the Timberwolves one of the best teams in the NBA? I'll start this one, as we do often when we rotate
They're
this.
playing really well. They're playing
Yeah.
really well.
Yeah, the Timberwolves are making me look smart, man. Again, y'all didn't see this because we did this last summer at NBC Sports Studios, but Morgan will remember that I told her and anybody that will listen that the Timberwolves are coming, and they are.
Yeah.
they're here. They're here, right? And so they are. And despite the fact that Karl Anthony Towns went down with what I believe a partially torn MCL, they're still doing well, and that's because they have Anthony freaking Edwards on the team. And this man is a dunking machine. For those of you that didn't see that dunk that literally gave John Collins a concussion, like my goodness, like that man needs to be in a dunk contest ASAP. Like Rocky ASAP. Like just get that man in a dunk contest. But yeah, the Timberwolves are coming. Now, do I think in a playoff matchup between them and the Nuggets, will they win? I think that as long as they don't beat themselves, they can beat the Nuggets, because I don't think that the Nuggets have anything for a Karl Anthony Towns, Gobert lineup, along with Anthony Edwards cutting, and he's gotten more consistent as a 3-point shooter, and they have more length now. I don't know. I think I'd pick the Nuggets in probably 7 games, but I think if the Timberwolves can shoot and are dominating like they did to the Jazz just a few days ago, I don't think many teams in the West can beat them. Yeah, I think they are one of the best teams in the NBA. What do you think, Morgan?
I think they're playing really, really well right now. I think we've kind of been talking about this a lot, but it's going to kind of be a crapshoot getting in once the playoffs hit. I feel like there are so many teams that could actually come in and like make a mark that it's going to be really interesting and really fun. I obviously haven't watched them as extensively as you have, but the few games that I've been able to tune into, I've been very impressed with the intensity that they play with, the ball movement. And I think that they're only going to keep getting better.
Yeah. And I think we got the same level of knowledge on this Minnesota team because obviously neither one of us live in Minnesota, so I don't get those games either. Unless they're national games, I don't get those games either. But moving right along, Anthony Edwards. We just talked about it. Is he the future face of the league? Or I'll add a thing to the question: is he the face now? Well, one of the faces now. You can start this
that was pretty crazy. I think it was like the dunk heard around the world, I think everybody would say.
Yeah.
I feel like every once a year he does something crazy like this where everyone's like, oh my God, that's the greatest thing I've ever seen. Yeah, that was crazy. It was fun. He's unbelievable to watch. The athleticism is out of this freaking world. I don't know if I'd go as far as to call him the face of the league, but I think that he's definitely enjoyable and fun to watch. We've kind of had this conversation the last couple of weeks of like, who is that face of the league? And maybe it is him right now. I don't know. But I don't know. All I know is that dunk was out of this freaking world and so much fun to watch.
Yeah. And look, I will say this. Like, obviously, the faces of the league, as we talked about before, are Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, Steph Curry, LeBron James, Anthony Davis when he's healthy. Like, obviously, those are the current faces of the league. But obviously, Anthony Edwards, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Tyrese Maxey are current second faces or faces of their respective franchises, depending on who's there. And I think Anthony Edwards is a face right now because I think he's box office. I think, like you said, he does things in some of these games that I don't think he could do at Georgia, that he's just been developing. I mean, shouts out to the Minnesota development team, player development team. Let me not make the sports conspiracy theorists' ears pull up when I said development, because some of them are like, they did say he said it, they do clone them. Player development, not lab development. I think that Anthony Edwards is one of the faces of the league and is going to be a future face. Now, I don't know, just because of the way player movement in the NBA is, I don't know if he'll stay in Minnesota forever. But I think that Minneapolis, Minnesota needs to enjoy him while he's there. And like the Minnesota Timberwolves, their ceiling is kind of like the Warriors, his whole career, if they can convince him to stay there for that long, outside of these 4 or 5 years. So kudos to Minnesota. You finally got another star. You finally got a tougher Kevin Garnett, man. I love Anthony Edwards. I kind of wish he was a Sixer, but I
wish every good player in the league was a Sixer.
I do. I love Anthony Edwards. As Morgan knows, I am a card carrying member of the Anthony Edwards fan club. I love that man. I love the way he plays. I love his skill set, and kudos to Minnesota for having two of the best superstars in the league with Karl-Anthony Towns and him on the same team. Congratulations. And I think as long as both of them are there, Minnesota goes as far as both of them will take them. And
you sounded a little jealous there. You sounded a little that congratulations sounded a little
a little sarcastic.
A little sarcastic, just a little bit.
I'm just saying, man. Karl-Anthony Towns is a free agent and I think next year, and he's from Camden, New Jersey. I'm just saying.
You're just saying. You're just saying.
Just saying. But like I said, enjoy both of them while they're there. I have no hate in my heart from the Minnesota Timberwolves. Great team. Loved Kevin Garnett as a kid, so I'm all for. Obviously, Minneapolis is not a small market, but in the media world, it's considered a small market. Like, I'm all for these teams, especially in the Midwest, where like outside of the Northeast, where like basketball is like obviously basketball is a top 2 sport anywhere, but specifically there in Indiana and Minnesota, where they have nothing to do but either play hockey, football, or basketball. So, I'm all for those places having superstars. I think it's great. I think the league is better when those teams are good. So, that's my honest, objective opinion. So, all right. if nothing else, he's not him, she's not her, and they are them. Your favorite segment,
Woo!
everybody's favorite segment. Do you want to start?
Yes, I
Or
do
you
want to
me?
start.
Okay.
They aren't them to the selection committee. You hear me?
Ah,
You hear me?
ah,
Put some respect on the Big East's name.
ah.
Put some respect on their name. That's my they aren't them. I was really struggling to find like a she's not her or a he's not him. I'm gonna not do a she's not her because Women's History Month or Women's whatever, Happy Women's Month. So no, she's not her. All women are amazing.
Except for Kim Mulkey.
Except for Kim Mulkey. Come on, Kim. We just need you to keep your cool. We really, I just that's all we're asking. One week of keeping your cool.
Right.
I think that's all I have, though. I really think that's the only thing this week that has seriously pissed me off was the selection committee. If I think of anything while you're doing yours, though, I will let you know.
Okay. So my they aren't them. My they aren't them too. I hate when I have to do this to one of my journalism heroes, with Stephen A.
Oh
Smith.
no!
Man.
Oh yeah, I know.
We try not to get political, but come on, dog. Platform is Charlemagne, the god of misinformation. Come on now, bro. Like I cannot. Like I look. It's an election season. Obviously, 8 months away. A lot of people, unless you live in the closest big city to Morgan, Washington D.C. Unless you live in D.C. or you're a political journalist, these next 8 months are probably going to be your least favorite part of the year because it's an election season. And I look, whether some people would say like some people want me to be a political journalist, but I will say this about this: like, as somebody who lived in DC for 2 years, not as long as Morgan has lived in that area. I am for a more informed public, and I think that when for those talking
I can
about,
hear you.
Did I freeze or did you still hear me?
I heard you.
Okay.
You froze a little bit, but I was still hearing you.
Okay, cool. Those that don't know what I'm talking about. Okay. So those that don't know what I'm talking about, Charlemagne the God and Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith did an episode of his podcast where they kind of talked about VP, our VP, because we all live in this country, Kamala Harris, and they basically were like, they don't question her credentials. Obviously, how can you? But they were like, she needs to get angry. She needs to do this. She needs to do that. And I'm just like, bruh, she is a black woman, the first black and brown woman to be VP, and y'all just want this girl emotional all the time, right? What do people say about, why we don't have, and this is men and women of certain age groups, and boomers and otherwise, that say, I don't think a woman should be president. You and I probably heard the same exact thing.
Because they're too emotional.
They're too emotional, blah, 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 da, 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 da. And now we got these two media members saying basically, I want a VP that's emotional. I want her challenging Joe Biden at every chance she gets. That's essentially what's the gist of the clip, right? They want her challenging him, stuff like that. Going back to when they were debating and she challenged him, and that's what made her become VP. But like, you don't need to do that when you're in an election season and you're going to be with somebody for 8 years. Like, you don't need to do that. And I just think that, my they aren't them to my media members who are like, obviously I have no problem with podcasts. This is a podcast. We get together, we shoot the crap. We say a lot of things. So most of them are factual, but we probably say some things that piss people off. This might piss people off, but like, I just cannot have this right now. Like, there is too much on the line. This is probably as close as I'll say about this without getting too political about it. We are 8 months away from a consequential election. And I do not think that we need people talking about somebody who's going to be a heartbeat away from the presidency, talking about she needs to be more emotional. Because I think that scares a lot of people of a certain age group, boomers and what's left of the greatest generation, who might hear Stephen A. Smith and Charlemagne say that and be like, oh my God, the black men are saying what I'm saying. Look at that. Like, and I just don't think that is what you need to be using your platform for. I don't think it's hard to just be like, hey guys, pay attention. You need to vote, and leave it at that. Because I am, after what we went through in 2020 and 2021 with this pandemic, I think we as media members as a whole, Morgan and I try to do this by bringing people on that know their stuff. I don't want nobody coming in here and sports conspiracy theorists. I think we both are in agreement on that we want to protect this platform and protect the people that watch this from people who, don't know what they're talking about. But that's not to discourage you. If you want to come on here, just know your stuff. I try to protect this platform because even with this medium-sized platform that we have, maybe this will turn into a large platform like a Stephen A. Smith show or a Breakfast Club or whatever. But like, I try to protect this platform just because, like, we're media members. That's what Morgan and I went through it at this class. Like, you gotta protect your platform. You gotta make sure that you're leaving the audience more informed than they come in with. So that's what we try to do, and that's why I think a lot of you respect that. I've heard it from some of you who I've run into here in Philadelphia and beyond that listen to this podcast. You feel like this is one of the better podcasts that you listen to, and that's a conscious effort by both of us to make sure that we're protecting this platform. And I just think that that's something that you need to do, especially with 8 months, with us literally being 8 months away from an election. So my day on them to Stephen A. Smith and Charlamagne the God, and just media members, be more careful with the platform, please. Do I have a he's not him? I think that's it. I think that's my day on Kim. My she's not her. Kim Mulkey didn't do any. Oh no. Oh, Haley Van Lith.
Oh,
girl,
staying in the family.
Girl. I don't know why y'all were on a live mic confirming what most people think, that you guys are a cocky team that people want to see get knocked off. And I like LSU. I like Angel Reese. I think this is going to be one of the best women's tournament ever, right?
Yeah.
And now we're fresh off the heels of the Minnesota. Shout out to the Minnesota Lynx. They're finally doing what they should have done when she took her social justice break and retiring one of my basketball heroes numbers, Maya Moore. Shouts out to UConn. And they're finally retiring the number, fresh off of that, having one of the best women's sports conferences ever. Here y'all are saying, we're going to kick their ass. Like, what are y'all doing? Like, why are you on Hot Mic saying that, bro? Like,
because Kim Mulkey's their coach.
You can think it. I know that Haley Van Lith, because she transferred from Louisville, there's some hate there because of how it ended there. Now, I don't cover Louisville, so I don't know how it ended there, but I'm sure that there was some drama there. And the way she said that during their selection show, it seems like there is some drama there. So, I guess they're hoping not to play Louisville in the second round this weekend. But I just think that, you should just, it's better for you to keep that in than to be called on Hot Mic saying it, because now you're giving Louisville even more motivation to beat that ass if they beat the team they're playing this weekend. So I don't know why you would do that, why you would give bulletin board material and you're one and done. Now you got 4 quarters, but you're one and done. I don't know why you would do that. But my she's not her, the Haley Van Lith. I just want y'all, your Tom Izzo is doing the same thing. Stay away from giving people bulletin board material if you know that
people are already coming after you.
Yeah, if they're already coming after you, and you already know, kind of like, you brought up UConn struggle during their conference tournament. If you know that your offense is up and down, shh. like even though you got 3 quarters and the men only have 2 20-minute quarters to do it, shh. Like, y'all are way too reliant on Angel Reese for y'all to be out here saying, I hope somebody kicks the ass of Louisville. Like, no. You don't carry your weight enough to say that. Like, y'all both don't carry your weight enough to say that. Angel Reese got to drop like 25 a night for y'all to win games. Shut up. Just shut up. Yeah. Just shut up. I hate saying that on Women's Month. Just shh. Just leave that. Let your play do the talking. Like, don't be giving players bulletin board material and you used to play with that team. Don't do it. Don't do it. I think that's it for me. You got any?
That's it for me. No.
All right. All right.
Well, guys, enjoy. This is like the best time of the year. These are my two favorite days of the year. Enjoy, sit back on your couch, watch these games, keep following us. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know what you want to hear. Let us know any breakdowns, any specific moments or games from this past week that you want us to break down next week. We'll be back roughly the same time next Thursday. So yeah, it's gonna be awesome. We're excited. Go UConn, go JMU.
Go UConn, go Houston, go
Let's do
what did I
it.
say? Go Creighton. I think
Go
Iowa
Big
State.
East.
Go Big East. Go. I'm an East Coast boy. Go Big East. Go ACC. Go Matt. Go Division. Shout out to D3, my Albright College people. Shout out to the MAC on the D3 side. So go everybody. Have fun. Hopefully there's not too many upsets this year that breaks all of our brackets and we're all mad. But if it's going to happen, it'll probably be Purdue. Let's be real.
If it's gonna happen, like let's let it be Purdue. Let's make it be Purdue.
Yeah.
All right, that is it. That's all for us
All right.
today, guys. Thanks again for watching. Only an hour and 36, not too bad. So we'll see you guys later.